Okay, everybody. I had a few spare hours today, and I figured I'd take the old metal detector out and hit one of the local schools. Show you a little picture of this playground I'm going to go metal detect at. It's not going to take very long. It's a real small one. They use mulch made up of recycled tires. So it's just rubber mulch, nothing wood. We had rain a couple days ago, and the ground is nice and moist, which is your best conditions for metal detecting. I'm using a Garrett model. It's my favorite one. It's an Ace 250. It's got multiple settings. I'll strap it on here. The most comfortable metal detector I've ever owned and the most reliable. Go ahead and walk around here. I like hitting these little school playgrounds like this because they don't take long to do, and I usually pull out a little bit of change. Every now and then you'll find some jewelry, but it's kids' jewelry, stuff you get out of a gumball machine. I'm not using any digging tools other than my foot. Don't need them here. A lot of places, parks, beaches, things like that, you might want to use a digging tool. But I want the fast money today. Besides, digging holes is a lot of work, and I'm kind of lazy. Get to a location like this, I like to just look it over real quick. See if there's any obstacles or trash, anything I want to get out of the way before I start my treasure hunt here. Alright, I'm going to turn this baby on, kind of explain some of the stuff as I go along. Hit the power button on this baby, and I have multiple settings over here to the left. See, my thumb's pointing at it there. I'm going to set it on the coins setting. That will get rid of most of the iron, aluminum foil, stuff like that. It'll discriminate and not even give me a tone for some of that stuff, unless it's a big piece right on the surface. In this case, that's very possible. I've turned my sensitivity down. Got a meter here. I'm going to turn it down to about 2 notches. I don't really need to go deep with this one today, so I can save a little battery power and save a little heartache also with that. This particular model does have a pinpointing system and a depth gauge on it. Well, I know everything here is going to be 2 inches or less just because it's a playground, and it's got a mat underneath that underneath all the mulch, so I'm not going to be able to dig even if I wanted to. Now, there may be items underneath the matting that I cannot get to, but that's all right. Now, I haven't hit this school for a couple years, so there might be a little bit here, there might be nothing. That's part of the fun. You never know what you're going to get. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and start. Probably won't be a lot of signals since I've got it on discriminate. One of the settings is an all metal or a relic setting, and that will give me a nice tone on anything metal. Doesn't matter if it's zinc, lead, aluminum, iron, copper, stainless steel. It'll ring. Well, I want to avoid a lot of that trash, and that's why it's worth the money to invest in one of the better machines that gives you those options. You'll notice my swing rate in here is a little bit quick. I'm keeping a tighter pattern. I could go really wide, but I like doing a shorter one in here when I do these schools. And then I will overlap a little bit. And that's always a good practice to do when you're metal detecting anywhere, especially an area you've never been to. Because I've been here in the past, I've already gotten out a lot of the trash. Like I said, they use recycled tires for this mulch. You can see it here. It's all chipped up. And a lot of the valve stems are still in the mulch. Well, they're made of copper primarily and other metals, but these that they use I found have had a lot of copper valve stems, and I've already gotten all that out. It rings up just like a penny. Now if they've added mulch, obviously there might be some more in here. Not getting any signals today. You never know where these kids will lose money. Sometimes it's at the base of a slide, which is kind of an obvious place to look, or near the swing sets, where they go up a little too high and stuff tumbles out of their pockets, or if they have a jump out and have it's always a good place to search. But a good practice to make sure you're very thorough is to just go ahead and do the whole area. You never know where they'll drop it out. You'll notice these plastic borders they have set up. They've got a huge metal spike there. So it's big enough piece of metal, it'll give me a tone, even though I've discriminated out of that. But only when I get really close to it. These plastic borders, for little kids at least. Sorry, I had an insect on my neck. These plastic borders make nice little temporary chairs, and you can imagine them sitting down and might have a good shot of losing something for me to find. I got a little close to that metal there. Let me reset it. Adjust my swing here in my search area. Alright, I've done the border. I'm going to go back and hit some of this big area here. Of course, I'm overlapping my previous track. Once I've eliminated a lot of this big area, I'll go in closer to the playground equipment. Give you an idea of the conditions today. This is a unusual August day for Kansas because it's only 72 degrees and it's cloudy, partly cloudy, but no rain and none expected. These are my ideal conditions for doing metal detecting. That way I don't burn from the sun. Yeah, we got a nice little tone here. I'm going to back up a couple steps. And on this model, when you hit the pinpoint, it kind of resets the last reading that it made. So I'm going to swing again. There it is. Now, if you hear that tone, it's a beautiful tone. And if you look at my indicator there, you can see that it's between the 1 cent and the 10 cent mark. So we got a good shot of being a dime or a penny. I'm going to hit my pinpoint. Right there. And my depth gauge is at 4 inches or less. So, I don't have, like I said, I don't have a digging tool. And I don't need it here. I've got my boots on. They're waterproof, by the way. So I'm just going to move this stuff over a little bit with my foot. Dig a small hole here. Looks like I moved whatever it is in my pile. So let's thin the pile out a little more. Use my pinpoint feature. Try it again here. Okay. What do we have here? Oh. Not sure if that's a trigger off a toy gun or what. But it's a piece of copper or a copper alloy. Not what I'm looking for, but it's always good to get the trash out of here. You don't want some kid getting hurt on a sharp piece of metal or anything else. So I made a little hole here, and this is always a good practice. Whether it's in this mulch or it's hard-packed dirt that you've had to dig up, please fill in your holes. Make it look like no one has ever been there. We don't want dead grass. We don't want a hole that the owner would be mad at you for later. Alright. I'm checking that same spot to see if there's additional tones, any other objects. You never know, if you find a coin, you might find 2 or 3 right next to it. So it's always good to double check. And then I'm going to continue on. One of the things that's always a good practice to do is to ground balance your metal detector when you first start. Now, if I was in, say, a park with grass, and I was going to do some digging, and I don't know obviously how deep anything's going to be, then I would do that. I don't really have to do that in this situation. This is kind of unique. Not able to go very deep. So as long as I get a tone, I know it's only going to be a certain depth. that's a pretty tone. Let's start over and see. Let me clear it and try again here. That was not a pretty tone that time. Now see, that whole thing is made of metal and it's just barely registering because of that discrimination feature. Not really picking it up again. So I might have just got a little too close. Let me try it differently. Let me try a tighter, slower pattern here and see if it picks anything up. Yep, it likes something in there, but these coils, and that's this thing right here, your coil helps produce a magnetic field. And that's how you find metal objects. And one of the things you have to remember is that the invisible magnetic field that it produces, of course, goes down from the coil into the ground. Well, it also goes up. So if I stick my coil underneath the metal and swing, it's going to register it. So you got to be careful. Again, I'm under metal right here. So I don't think that was anything. So you can get fairly close to a big piece of metal before it registers. Alright, we'll try out here and open some more now. Well, we've got a good percentage of this little playground already searched now. It doesn't take long. This would be even quicker, obviously, if I wasn't filming. I would probably go at a slightly faster pace. And I wouldn't have as much duplication, but I'm trying to show some good technique here for those of you that are maybe thinking about getting into the hobby or got some kids watching. It's always good to establish some good habits first. You start taking shortcuts and you might miss out on the big find. Looks like the wind has died right now, and even though the temperature is nice, it's very humid here in this little playground because this mulch really traps the water. I think even as much or more than if they had redwood chips like they use in a lot of places. You can see this jungle gym area right here is about half of the entire area. The rest is swings. I'm gonna pick a spot here like an imaginary border, cutting this playground in half. And that way I'll be doing this in small chunks. Aha. Let's see what we got here. Okay. 4 inches or less. And wasn't the best tone on earth, and it shows it as a nickel. So let me clear it and try it again. I'm using the pinpoint feature. Looks about right in there, so let's kick some of this over here and see what we get. Try again. Did I move it? Maybe I moved it on its side. The majority of coins you'll find will be flat. They'll be facing up or down. But occasionally you will find one on its side. It doesn't matter if it's something big like a quarter or something small like a dime. It'll give a signal, but it may not be the best of signals. And that's the surface area that is exposed to your magnetic field from the coil is a lot smaller, obviously. And so that's why you won't get as good a reading. I'm going to use this as about my halfway marker. Let's try this one. You can see that notch possibly at the end down there in the plastic border. So I'm just going to head towards that, and we'll make that the 50-yard line. There is no law on how you have to do your searches. You can use a grid system. You can go at it like you were mowing the lawn. You can do the borders first like I like to do and work your way in. Start in the middle and work your way out. It's all up to you. It's your hobby, it's your time, it's your investment. And there are no right or wrongs, just as long as you don't miss or skip an area. Like I say, I like to overlap. That's always a good habit to get into. I can think of many times when I first started out, I did not overlap properly. I was so concentrated on where I was putting my feet, my pacing, looking at the meter when I didn't need to, looking at the ground when I really didn't need to. You can actually look straight ahead and just go by the tones from your machine, and that way your neck and your back won't hurt as much. That tone that we had a few minutes ago, that When I searched for it, nothing came up when I researched. I'm led to believe maybe it was just a very small piece of metal, one that my discrimination feature didn't 100% discriminate against, but when I kicked it, much like the example I was giving of a coin on its side, that's possibly what happened when I kicked it, was that it changed the aspect so that it was so small that it ignored it like it properly should. That happens a lot when the object is a nickel. Nickel is a fairly cheap metal to use in machinery parts, coinage, and a lot of other things you can think of. And of course you can alloy it, mix it with other metals, cheaper metals if necessary. And a lot of those metals are made into cheap jewelry, gumball machine jewelry, costume jewelry, and they do their job just fine. They aren't generally as pretty as silver or gold, but when it comes to cost and mass production, it's hard to beat. Oh, there's a pretty tone. I'm getting a, let's try it again here. There we go. It's giving me a tone of a penny. Alright, I'm using the pinpoint feature. You can see that little notch right there in the middle of the coil. And Garrett was one of the first companies to do that. And believe it or not, it actually helped. Well, let's see what we get here. Move some of this out of the way. Oh, I already see it, but as a good practice, I'm going to go over what I just kicked. I'm not getting a signal, and I'm getting a signal again. And you can see the coin. You can see the coin. I'm gonna do this again. I'm using the pinpoint feature, and I want to show you when I get away from that penny how far you can get away before the signal stops. I'm holding the button down. So you can see it gets you within a jackpot. It gets you within a 2 to 5 inch area easily. And of course, depending on its depth and the size of the object, you know, that signal will increase or decrease. Anyway, I can tell it's a penny, but let's go ahead and get it. It's kind of hard to do this with the camera in the machine, but that's all right. What do we got here? We have looks like a 2012 Lincoln penny. So we paid for the trip already, so I'm going to put that right in the pocket. Reset my machine. Search the area again. Not getting any signals, and then let's fill in our hole. And then, that's right, I'm going to check it again. I've been known to check it 2 or 3 times and still come up with something. Now let's look where we found that. Where my coil is where we found it. Look what it's just a couple of feet away from, the end of that slide. And that's what I was talking about. There's good logical area, base of those steps, end of the slides, the swings when kids would jump off, or even right underneath the swing for that matter. There's some stairs over there. These are just logical places for coins to be. Now, that just increases your chance of finding a coin. That doesn't mean they're there. Which is why you should search everywhere. And little kids like to climb underneath things. And you can see, looks like somebody crawled through there. There's maybe footprints or something. There's a little toy, piece of a plastic toy right there, that blue item. So kids were underneath here. Well, they might have lost something under there too. Oh, I've made a little Fred. Nice little yellow jacket there, mud dauber, one of the two. Well, let's get back to money. Don't have time for stings. Alright, let's head on across here. Let's finish out our pattern. Don't stop short. Go ahead and complete any pattern. I remember when I was young and my dad was teaching me to fish, and I was new to casting, but you know, I could most of the time get it out there. But every now and then, of course, you don't. Maybe you released your thumb a little too early or too soon or something. Or too late, and got maybe your worm and your bobber only went out, 10 feet instead of 20 or 30. Well, he told me to go ahead and fish every cast. Give it a chance, you never know. And that's how it is with doing a pattern in metal detecting. Go ahead, finish out your search pattern. Don't stop short, because then you might forget where you were and you might miss whole areas. Alright, I had a little signal here, but it might have been that pole right there. So let's try this again. Hey, there's something. Alright, 4 inches or less, which is to be expected. Possibly a penny. Pinpoint it. Right there. Alright. Now you notice the different color of the mulch. It's dirtier and a little moist from the rains we've had. Stuff on top is nice and loose. That's a little more hard packed. But I can still easily kick it out of the way with my boot. So let's check our pile. Nothing. Whatever it is, it's still in here. Right in there. I'm going to gently move some of this over here. Hey, one of the other little advanced techniques, things that you should keep in mind, like when I'm moving this pile, move it away from something metal like that post. Move it out into the open where there is nothing. That way when you check and check your tailings and the pile you kicked over, I thought that would have been it, but it's actually a piece of rubber. It's got some white on it. Anyway, that way the pole would not be interfering with your search. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and dig this stuff up a little bit. we're getting down to the mat. There's a water barrier under there. You can see it that they have underneath here. Let me search my tailings again here. Not getting anything now. Nothing, nothing. Ah, there it is. Let's try a different pattern here. Ah. Here's a string. Is that meaningful? No? Oh. Let's dig in over here then. It may be under that mat. It may have been in the ground long enough that they installed the matting underneath it. You never know, check your tailings. Nothing. There it is. No. My depth gauge says 2 inches or less. So it's underneath the mat and I cannot get it. So let's fill our hole in and continue on. Hopefully I'll remember that the next time we're here. I like to hit these schools once a year, but over the years I've been unable to do that. So it's actually been like 3 years since I've been to the 2 years, 3 years. But that gives it some time for some new treasures to get lost and then refound by me. Alright, let's go on to some more here. Alright, I've done the border. So of course I'm going to come over a couple feet and I'm going to do a little bit wider swing since I don't have that plastic barrier in the way. Cover a little more ground. It's very important that you keep this coil swinging back and forth. That motion and the little computer inside the mounted unit control panel uses that information to help determine there's something there. If you take your coil and go too slow, it may ignore it or not read it at all. Or it'll read it and misinterpret the signals. So you don't want to go too fast. You don't want to get crazy. You'll get exhausted. And remember, I'm lazy, so I don't want to get too tired from this. Let's see if we can get anything. No. Alright, let's head over here. Ooh, ooh, ho, ho. That was a pretty tone, wasn't it? See if I can duplicate it. Yeah. We'll pinpoint it here. Yeah, reading said it was possibly a penny, and again 4 inches or less deep. Let's kick some of this out of the way. Let's do our tailings. Nothing, nothing, nothing. Oh, there it is. Likes right there. Don't get too crazy. It's hard packed in a little bit with the dirt. I don't know where all the mud mud came from. But uh-oh, there's some of the mat already, so may have another one underneath. Let's try our tailings. Yeah. I think I'm going to be unlucky again on this one. I don't remember there being this much underneath. Now, it's underneath. Now, let's fill it back up. Oh, well, shucks. That was a pretty tone. Uh-oh. Alright, same thing, penny. A couple inches deep. But I think I'm going to be unlucky again. Nope, fooled me. That was a round piece of rubber. And let's see what we got. Boy, it's a lot of work for a penny. But you just never know what you're going to get. I have been in areas like city parks, places I know for a fact dozens, if not hundreds of people have searched before with metal detectors. And I have dug up pennies that turned out to be an Indian head penny or a wheat penny. And it's like, well, how did I find it and they didn't? Is it I had better equipment? I had better technique? I had a little more luck? Was the ground moist for me but dry for them so they didn't get a signal? Yak. Oh, I don't want to get dirty, that's why I wear the boots. This is getting a little too deep. And our old friend the Matt is back. And these are the questions that I had. Yeah, it's under the mat. Alright, let's get this dirt back in here. Try to get it in first. And then get the good clean stuff on top. Oh well. We'll try again. Alright, let's continue our pattern. Here's a good example of the discrimination feature. I don't know if you can see it. I'm going to put the camera closer. If you can see that paper clip, I'm going to run my machine over it. Nothing. No signal, no nothing. But if you look at my screen, here, I'll do it again. You can see the indicator says iron or foil, but it didn't make a bell tone. It wasn't a coin, and that's what the setting is on right now, is coins. But it did actually let me know there was something there, just not with an audible tone. Now I happen to see it. Well, kids don't need to be stepping on that or falling with their hands, so we're going to get rid of this junk, stick it in the pocket. But that's just a quick example of the, I think, just wonderful technology. It's amazing how we can do that kind of stuff. Okay. This tone, whatever it turns out to be, was at the left border, the perimeter of my swing when I first did this outlining. And so it didn't sound off earlier. Now that I'm actually searching right over it, it did. So there's another really good example of why you should overlap on your search pattern. That was right at the border. All right, let's see where we get here. It says a penny. It likes it right there. Let's see what we got here. Hope we don't have a matte penny. Oh, shucks. It's looking more and more like that, though. Isn't it? Yeah, let's see what we got here. Did I kick it? Nothing, nothing, nothing. Reset. Yeah, it's no longer there. Let me try from this way. Oh, I did kick it, whatever it is. Still says a penny, but that was not a very good tone. Alright, let's get down up close and personal. Since I know there's no broken glass or anything in here, let's see if maybe I can just find it like that. Aha! Yes. Oh man, I'm going to the ice cream store after this. Let's see, 1995. Alright, that one's going in the pocket. But yeah, that's a great example of why you should overlap your search field. Like you've probably already done, I've seen several other videos that guys have put out. Knowledgeable, experienced guys. And I'll watch their technique, just because as an experienced hunter, that's something I look for. I'm always trying to learn. I don't have a big enough ego to think my way is the best way or anything like that. But for better stuff, different stuff, improvements, and I'll see some bad technique. And these guys, they find all kinds of great stuff, but I think they're missing some stuff too. And honestly, I want to do these videos more of a teaching thing. I mean, I'm not going to find gold coins and stuff doing this. I know that's exciting and all, but my videos aren't going to be like that. I want to stick to the teaching side. I like to teach, and I want you to get some enjoyment out of this instead of heartache. Okay, you heard that beautiful tone. Just a beautiful bell tone. It's a penny. Depth gauge was 2 inches, and it read as a penny. But is it a penny or dime? It is a penny. It's one of the new Shield scents. 2012. I kind of like that they changed up the designs a little bit, but still kept President Lincoln on there. Uh-oh. Oh ho ho. Is this a double? Again, that's why you check your spot. Yes, it's a double. I see it right here. Right next to that little bug. Oh, there's another one right next to it. Ah. Filthy, rotten lucre. Ill-gotten gains. Not really. It's fun to say that stuff. Well, they're too filthy to see the dates, but they're modern pennies. I can see the, what is that, Library of Congress or something on the back? White House? Something. I guess I don't know my history as well as I should. Anyway, all right, let's do it again. Who knows? Ho ho ho. When you have this many, usually, and you probably did it yourself as a kid, you're just burying stuff in the sand. Little kids do that, 3 years and younger. They'll do that kind of stuff. Oh, sorry. Yeah, modern Lincoln, obviously. I'm gonna find the old stuff in here. Well, come on, kiddos. What else do you lose? I'm glad it wasn't Mommy or Daddy's coin collection, but ho ho. Yep, penny again. 2 to 4 inches. There it is. A couple of them. Couple of pennies. Yeah, somebody had a good old time, didn't they? All right. Yep, Lincoln. Oh man, I can't believe it. I'm up to what? 5, 6, 7 cents, something like that. Ho ho ho. Always double check your sight. Alright. Yep, more Lincolns. Well, I think somebody lost their lunch money or something. This is just silly. Same thing, penny. I think that might be. Yep, there it is, right there. Penny, 2 to 4 inches deep. That's a shield cent, so we know it's brand new. Alright, let's try her again. Holy cow. Is this what the gold miners call it, a glory hole, or? I hope I'm using that term right. Oh, yep, right there. Oh, there's two. I kicked another one right next to it. All right. I'm getting old and my knees are shot. My back is shot. Maybe not, but I like saying it. And is it multiple signals? Is that why it won't tell me what I want to know? There it is. 2 of them. Anyway, my knees are shot, mostly from military and just working too hard. But I'm fat. That's what it is. I'm just getting fat, and I just don't want to bend over. Oh. But That was another Lincoln, by the way. I could see his face on it, even though it was dirty. Oh, it was right there the whole time. I didn't even see it. I'm sorry for all the wobbliness, but I'm doing this one-handed. I wonder if I should invest in one of those little headlamp-looking holders. Hey, look at that, no tones. That's both sad and happy. I don't have to bend over anymore and catch my breath. Uh-oh. That one red as a penny, but it wasn't a pretty tone, was it? Well, let's fill our hole in and start from scratch and see what happens. Yeah, I'm just getting old and fat, but I'll tell you what, that was a pleasure gaining all that weight. I'm telling you, food is just one of the best things ever. People that know me know how much I love it. And I've had not getting that tone anymore. They ask, well, you eat all the time, how come you're not 300 pounds? Well, I do stuff like this. You don't have to exercise all day long, lose weight. You get out there for 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. Walk around the park, metal detect, take your dog for a walk. Dogs love walks, obviously. And see what happens. You'll lose some weight. Or you'll break even, which is kind of what I do. Anybody that knows Kansas, it's too cold in the winter and too hot in the summer, so the only two places worse are Florida and maybe Brownsville, Texas. But anyway, yeah, no more signals. Let's move on. Oh, shucks. I like money, though. I am starting to sweat a little bit. Whether you're at your real job or doing this, nothing comes easy. Just the way I do these little parks. You're not or these little school grounds. Oh, that was that deep one. You're not guaranteed anything, but the odds sure go up in a hurry. Oh, I've got a big rectangular area right here. So I'm going to go lengthwise. And actually, I'm going to start back out here at the border and just redo it. It doesn't take long. Less than 30 seconds and I'll be at the end. There is no law that says you can't go over the same ground twice. And any real detectorist, metal detector guy, woman, not sure what the correct terminology is, they will tell you that at least once in their past they found something over ground they went over before. Alright, I'll go back here. I just wanted to do kind of another little mini perimeter there. Alright, now I'm going to overlap a little bit of what I just did. I've had questions before from people, and one of them was, well, how do you know how fast to swing or any of that? You have to find your own pace in walking and balance that out with coverage. You want to cover, your coil only covers accurately that much and this much. So you've got to cover the ground you're going over, and if you have a slightly faster swing than what you're walking at, not only will you cover all the ground in front of you and off to the sides a little bit, you will also overlap because of the length of the coil is longer than the width, you will overlap the area you just went over naturally. And that way you don't miss anything. And you give your machine a good second or third chance to find the good stuff. I live in Kansas now, but I grew up in Florida. And as a kid, I never did any of this, but I saw the guys on the beaches down there, the old retired guys, obviously. And they were doing their thing with their metal detectors. And every now and then, one of them would find something. I didn't know what they found, but I saw them doing it. I kind of put it to the back of my mind. And grew up and eventually joined the Army right out of high school. And one of the many jobs I had, I'm not sure if it's because I was qualified or just in the wrong place at the wrong time, but I got appointed to the arms room, so I was in charge of all the weapons. Well, one of the pieces of equipment we also stored in there were metal detectors for finding mines. Now, none of our people in the unit did that, but we had them in case we needed them, and none of us ever trained on them or anything. We just had them, which is kind of silly, I thought, but because they were kind of expensive. They were several $1,000s a piece. At least that's what they claimed they were worth. And we just had them. So one day, I was like, they've been sitting there a while. Let me open up the case. I'm in charge of them anyway. I'm supposed to be cleaning them or something. I don't know. So I broke them open. They were brand new. They'd never been touched. Got them out of just their basic plastic packaging. Wasn't hurting anything to do that. Be up to it. Battery was dead, so I got another battery. Special Army battery. It's a weird size and weird voltage, so that nobody steals it and uses it at home in their flashlight. Anyway, so I turned the sucker on, and it's got this tone. Well, it's a constant tone. Instead of our occasional bing, bing, bing when we go over a penny or something, this thing was on all the time. And not knowing any better, I just assumed that's how all metal detectors were. So when I saw these old guys with their headphones on the beach doing that, that's what I thought metal detecting entailed, was listening to that ridiculous tone the entire time. Now, if you found a piece of metal, because I tested it out with coins and a pen and a knife and whatever I had, like I say, I was just kind of playing around with them, see if they worked. Well, then the tone would go away. But I found even just after a couple of minutes of that, the tone echoes in your brain, even though it's not on anymore. And so I didn't know. Sometimes, like the very first time I would go over a piece of metal, that the tone shut off. To me, my brain was saying, yeah, it's still on. I just got, mesmerized or hypnotized by that tone. And I was like, well, it's got to be broken, right? It can't possibly. There's no way they designed something like that. Because think about it. If you're out there finding mines, right, let's say a road or something, and your unit is in charge of securing that road so the tanks and trucks and everything else can go by and soldiers can march on it. Remember, I was in the Army in the late 80s, so we didn't have all these fancy things like they have now. But anyway, so you're hearing this tone all the time. What happens if you actually found a mine, but your brain is still echoing that tone, bouncing around in your noggin? Well, what's going to happen? You're just going to ignore it and keep going, not knowing you actually did find a mine. And so what happens? The tragedy happens. So I'm sure by now, because of all the companies like Garrett and White's and some of the other, reputable manufacturers, they've done something to alleviate that situation. I'm sure they have much better modern gear now, because that stuff I opened up looked like it was from the 60s, maybe 70s. But anyway, so when later on I got out of the Army, forget what I was doing. I was in a hobby shop and I saw the metal detectors and got to talking with the owner, and I told him my experience. He's like, no. It's just the opposite with the commercial stuff. And so I tried it out, and he gave a little demonstration, and so my first unit was a White's unit, and it had some fancy stuff on it. Didn't have this depth gauge and some of the stuff like all of them have now, but pretty good unit. I mean, it would discriminate all the trash, and it gave you the option of doing that or not, which was nice. And I was hooked, so I went out to the park and dug up every pop tab that was ever produced in America in the last 200 years. But I found a couple pennies and dimes and that kind of stuff. And I was like, well, that was fun, but was it really worth a couple $100 that I spent? And I was like, not really. Financially, no. But when I got done and looked at my pile, I started thinking, I got rid of all that trash that now is, in the case of the aluminum, was getting recycled, and the other bits were going to be thrown out. Just get them in the trash instead of sticking out of the ground so a dog could step on it or something like that. I was doing some good, and I did find some money. And after a couple, 3 times, I found my first ring. I got that. Aha! I got that tone. That is a piece of packaging that must have a little aluminum in it. Like a candy bar will have a very thin aluminum coating to it. I'm going to put that in the pocket, throw that in the trash. Anyway, I found that first ring, and it was a kid's ring, but it was brand new and cool looking. And later on I found a pendant that was of the Virgin Mary, and it turned out to be sterling silver, I believe. It was silver, but it had another mark on it that the guy told me meant sterling silver. And so then I was really hooked, because then all the stories you hear about, oh yeah, found rings and watches and $1 million gold coins, all that kind of stuff. Well, it was true. You can find all that stuff. And so, like I say, I was hooked. And so I've been doing it all these years, off and on, off and on. Now that I've gotten I can't believe I fell into the job I did, but it pays pretty good, and I've managed to got married finally, and stepchildren out of the deal, and got them, a couple of them through college, and 2 more to go. One's in high school, so a few more years before they're all out of the house and I finally get peace and quiet. But I didn't always have the time to get out and do this kind of stuff. And now that they've got their friends, their job, school, cars and whatnot, they're a lot less time I have to spend doing just normal mom and dad stuff with them. So I'm getting a little more free time. So when I'm not on the computer playing video games, which is a lot, hey, Let's see what we got here. Or did I hit the pole? Did I get a little too close to that pole? Possibly. I've been getting out and doing metal detecting a lot more. So there it is. Alright, 4 inches or less, and it says a dime. Alright, let's see what we got here. Let's see, again, I'm going away from the pole. That big nasty green pole with my tailings here and my fancy mining technique here. Took me years to develop this technique. Alright, let's give her a shot. Nothing, nothing, nothing. And nothing. Nothing? Ah, no. Not seeing it from here, so I'm going to have to kick a little more here. When I check it again, I'm going to do a depth. And see what we get. Let's try her again. Yeah, 2 inches. It might be another matte penny though. Start to get into this deeper, dirty stuff. There it is. That beautiful round shape, and it is not a dime, it is a Lincoln penny. Ah, penny's penny, money's money. It all spins. Alright, let's try her again. Remember, search your finds, tailings and everything. Check that out. Alright, let's continue on. That was pretty sweet. You know, the more money I find, the more items that I find, the less you have to hear me talk about nonsense. So anyway, like I say, I got to spend a little more time doing this stuff. Now that the kids are older and more independent. Because before I got married, I was doing this kind of stuff a couple weekends every year, all year round. Even in the wintertime, there were areas that I would go search that were searchable, obviously, without 6 inches of snow on top. And, you know, just gaining experience and finding a few things, having a good old time. For those of you who are thinking about getting into the hobby for whatever your reasons are, a lot of people do it just for exercise and to maybe find something special. What's really nice about metal detecting is that you can buy a top-notch unit, a detector I'm talking about, for, I'm going to say, $300 or less, brand new. Now used, obviously you can get better deals, refurbished, whatever. You have to talk to a dealer about that, but I don't know if I'd want to get off Craigslist or something. But anyway, my point is, for a very low investment, you can do it. Digging tools, most people already have a garden trowel. You can start with that, or just use your foot like I do. Nothing. Didn't like that. Let me try this way. Maybe I got too close to that pole and stuff again. I'm gonna wipe my screen off. Got a little dust on there somehow. My filthy hands. All right. Yeah, I'm not getting the signal anymore. All right, let's back up. Try it again. I'm really overlapping heavily in this little area here, but that's all right. Just as a matter of disclosure, I'm probably going to edit out some of this stuff that I'm not finding anything in. But anyway, I used to metal detect all the time, and it was kind of, I didn't think of it at the time, but I'd find rings, not super valuable rings, say $100 or less. Some of them might have had like a little tiny diamond. Yeah, but what was more interesting to me was how they got lost. Got too close to a pole over there. How they got lost, and that some of them were actually silver. It might be 18 karat gold or whatever. But I was actually finding something valuable. Actually had a monetary value to it. I'm pretty much done with this area. I've searched everything that's basically searchable. So I'm going to go over here and do the swing set area. Start back over here and do the perimeter. Here was my middle notch right there. So that was kind of my starting area from before. I'm going to do a little wider swing here since I've already gone over part of this. I was finding stuff that was worth more than a penny or a nickel or a dime. So that was pretty nice. And then, of course, the more you do it, eventually you'll find the good stuff. So I started finding silver dimes, a couple mercury dimes, lots of wheat pennies. Found a couple of silver quarters finally. Have never found a silver dollar. I did find a 50-cent piece. Oh, now I'm blanking. Was it a JFK? Benjamin Franklin? Whoever was on the 50-cent piece. Anyway, non-silver. So, but it was just, wow. You don't see those very often anyway, out in circulation, let alone finding one with a detector. So, but over the years, I found all kinds of different types of jewelry and things I would never. Well, I figured I'd show you what all we found today. Get this spread out. No dimes, which is kind of unusual, but found I'm going to call it a money clip, even though it's a paper clip. A copper, what's it? A little bit of trash there with some aluminum on it. Got us a nickel. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26.